and that also is quite important for the success of the business. Simple things, tax, compliance, COIDA, those kinds of things. How do we, as a CIDB, enhance that process? What I would wish for is also ideas around how do we streamline the procurement processes, how do we deal with issues of digitizing those processes so that we can save time and ensure integrity in those processes. Through the BUILD program, as the Honorable Minister Dean McPherson has highlighted, centers of excellence have been developed. We've entered into strategic partnerships, including with funding institutions. How do we accelerate that implementation? Because to date, at least 300 million has been collected for support of SMMEs, and we need to accelerate those developments in order. There's been some pilots on construction management systems, APLs, which are very important for is something that cannot catch us behind, and it's not something that we must also leave only to researchers and academic institutions. We must also institutionalize that and create a roadmap for the country as to how we are going to deal with it. What are the change management mechanisms that we need there? What are the support in terms of training, awareness, and others that we need? And I'm hoping that in the commissions, we will also, those that have an interest in that area will also guide us. And at the end of this summit, it's quite important that we come up with actionable key initiatives that we can adopt as the industry and implement so that we can see the offshoots that have started showing to really go to its full potential of the construction industry. And we really, as a CIDB, thank you all, but really the work now is about to start, where all of you, the industry participants, will be guiding us as to how to look at certain initiatives. And there are many of our colleagues who are joining us online who have already started submitting proposals. And I plead and pray that we work together for the next 2 days in order to come up with those actions and we can implement so that we can say all of us can adopt that program and we can say this is what we did in 2025 for the construction industry, and we measure each other's performance against that. And it will make the CIDB, the public works, the sector, a much better environment for us to turning this country into a construction site. I thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, CEO. Can I ask that we give him a good round of applause to acknowledge the good input he has made? Thank you very much. I'm very much pleased to announce that there has been an amendment or a change on the program. You would have expected the next item on infrastructure project pipeline. There's a decision that that item be removed from the agenda, or from the program, so it will not be done. So we are going to move straight to our panel discussion, and at this point, I guess the minister, the deputy minister, and the MECs will be concluding the discussion, but to save time, we are going to proceed. The MEC from KZN is supposed to be facilitating this discussion, and of course there's the MEC from the Free State who's also part of the panel. We are dealing with that matter, but I think at this point, can we ask our panelists to all come to take their seats so that we can commence with the discussion. As you can see, their names are there on the program. Can I ask the chairperson of the CIDB to come? Mr. Vivian Reddy, also to come to the podium. Let's ask the CEO of SA Growth Point Properties to come as well, Estienne de Klerk. And let's also ask the great prof to also join the team. So we are missing one panelist. I need guidance on whether the prof is here or not, but it seems maybe that will be clarified as we proceed. So without, okay, I think everybody is here. Now the MEC, I guess will make remarks and inputs when they come, and the MEC of KZN will facilitate the discussions. But I think at this point, let me ask that without much ado, we ask our panelists in the order in which they appear on the program to talk to you. I guess you are ready. Welcome. We're ready to start. All okay? So we're going to start with the chairperson of the CIDB, Mr. Nzo. I guess you can lead us, and let me hand over to you. So you know the time that has been allocated. I've already saved this summit lot of time. You can see where we are now. A decisive shift in terms of saving time. So the panel is going to help us with saving more time, and I'm quite sure that will be back on track. But let me hand over to you. Let's put our hands together to welcome.
Thank you. Still good morning. My name is Khulile Nzo, the chairperson of the CIDB. I'm forming part of this panel, and I guess the difficult part will come when I'm being grilled by the moderator. But for now, it's important for us that as the CIDB, we don't talk much, but we listen to our stakeholders that we have invited here as the hosts. As the CIDB, we are trying to make changes to the industry. And I think we would all agree that over the past few years, the CIDB has merely been an entity that simply registers contractors. And that's all we dealt with. And our name is actually Construction Industry Development Board. And for many years, we had lost sight of the D in CIDB. And I think in the last term of our board, we focused on development in making sure that we create regulatory opportunities for our contractors and all our stakeholders. We've also, on the one hand, emphasized on ensuring that those that participate in the industry are authentic and legitimate. And you would know that in the last few months, we took the decision to deregister those contractors that are fraudulent. Those contractors purport to have capacity. And the reason for this is that we were hammered by the AG that has picked up a trend in our industry, and of which the president alluded to, that there are so many incomplete projects. And part of the problem is the capacity, the authenticity, the legitimacy of our contractors. That contractors collude with people within CIDB to issue gradings that are fraudulent. Some contractors misrepresent, defrauding the system by issuing bank statements that are not legitimate. And it becomes so pathetic and disgusting that a contractor that has no capacity, no knowledge of the industry, gets awarded projects that they cannot do. It is so bad that the level of fraud that is taking place is that contractors issue bank statements with transactions on the 30th of February in an attempt to defraud the system. Now, if you make an attempt to defraud the system to that extent, using the 30th of February as a date, it worries me as to what capacity and what type of building are you going to produce on site. So we do have a problem, and unfortunately we need to be strict. And once we've taken action against the contractors that are said since 2002, we've now deregistered 40 contractors. The issue also comes from the contractors that come back to us and say, but what about the clients? Which is why this summit is so important to the CIDB, because we do have clients that perhaps don't have the capacity to implement infrastructure projects. We have clients that frustrate our contractors through non-payment. We have clients that don't have the technical skills within the departments that they run. We have clients in the municipal space that do not have a clue on how to implement projects. We have consultants and professionals that undercut their fees due to tendering, and as a result cannot sustain themselves, nor do they produce the quality of work that they are required to do. It is also sad to see the number of professional students and their CVs that are not getting employment because of the discounted fees that that our professionals are utilizing. This becomes an important session for us as we find those solutions, that we sit around and we see how do we actually tackle these solutions. How do we ensure that the upcoming contractors get the work and the opportunity? It was quite interesting that the AG in our discussion even suggested to us, is tendering the system that we should be looking at? Why don't we look rather at fair pricing for a project? We've seen projects where unduly low tender prices are committed and awarded, and the contractor struggles to finish the job. These are the issues that we need to find solutions for. These are the issues that contractors have come to our desk, to our offices, and knocked on our door and said, please, you need to help us. We need to find solutions around procurement that is being manipulated for certain individuals that are connected to certain people, where the tendering process is not fair, where the tendering process is actually corrupt. These are the solutions that we need to bring, and as CIDB, we want those solutions coming out from our stakeholders. We don't want to sit here and dictate what needs to happen, but we take this session seriously to such an extent that last year, as you've heard from the stats that were read out today, that we've made impact on extortion. Now, the CIDB never imagined and equipped itself to police an industry, but rather to facilitate an industry. And here we are finding ourselves having to police contractors to behave on site. And we are quite certain that those who extort projects should not be part of us. They are not part of this industry. They are not looking and focusing at the D in the development of the industry. So in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, we do not want a talk show. We really rely on your inputs, your wisdom, your participation, so that we can find solutions. I think one of the speakers said, we are tired of the diagnosing the problem. I think more or less we agree what the problems are. What is more important is how do we find solutions and what is the solution? And just this morning, someone asked me, what is the solution for this non-payment issue? How do we get government to actually pay on time? And these are the questions that need to be asked here with our panelists, with the MECs, to find those solutions, and they must commit to this industry. That 1 trillion rand that the president has committed to, some of it doesn't see its way to this industry, to the people in this room, because some of it is not spent. There are statistics that 60% of the municipalities don't spend their budget, and other departments. Now, this is amount that is budgeted, not money that needs to be sourced somewhere. It's money that ought to filter its way to this industry, to benefit the people in this industry, to benefit our contractors and professionals, suppliers, manufacturers, and in fact, to actually make them rich. And we need to say that we need to be rich as an industry. It's also encouraging that in the last quarter, that this industry has produced 50% of the new jobs. So there is potential in this industry, and therefore we need to fight for it. So ladies and gentlemen, please don't talk. We need to do.
Okay, the MEC is here. I think this marks a decisive turning point MEC, we're ready for you. Now take your seat, settle. So just for you to know where we are, we just took the chairperson of the CIDP, Mr. Nzo, just made his remarks and input, so you can now take over the program. We have only had one speaker. I'm quite sure that you're ready. So let me hand over to you. Otherwise, let's welcome the MEC and we take it from here. Thank you very much. Let me hand over to you, MEC. Thanks.
Thank you so much, and please accept my humblest apologies. Unfortunately, in politics, we all have bosses, so if the president says I have to be in a meeting, I have to be in a meeting. So I do apologize for it, and thank you for the panel members for being patient as well. And we are joined, just so you see, it wasn't only me. We are joined by the MEC from Free State as well, who was in the same meeting as I was. And I'm glad you already started. So let me just see who already spoke. Ah, there we go, of course. We start with the people with all the knowledge first. Let me just get to my right place. So I'm going to allow the MEC of Free State just to take her seat first and get herself also sorted. So I'm going to jump. Let me just, oh, sorry, that's now if you rush and then you don't catch yourself out. All right. I'm going to go to Mr. Reddy. Now, Mr. Reddy and I do know each other because you can't live in KwaZulu-Natal and not know Mr. Reddy. So we've had many occasions together. And Mr. Reddy and his organization and his company have always been working very closely with government, and he pushes us, always demanding better, and that's for very, very good reason that he's always pushing us better. And government, we all know, cannot produce by itself, Mr. Reddy, that there has to be that synergy between what government does and what the private sector does. So from an investor's point of view, what reforms could unlock more private capital and encourage long-term development confidence, not only in the province, but also nationally?
Thanks, MEC. Firstly, I must, I know a lot of people sitting in the back, they were feeling very hot out here. On stage with the lights, it's even warmer out here. So, we're fortunate now coming in from the province of KwaZulu-Natal that had its amazing, problems more than the rest of the country. We all know about that. And I must compliment the new provincial government of unity, which has really become very pro-developers. They've had an investor conference recently where the Premier and his team have pledged to unlock red tape, to provide infrastructure for developments to occur. And with that background, one of the biggest problems that people sitting, a lot of you in this audience will know, is the issue of access to capital for developers, especially black developers in this country, emerging black developers. And I believe one of the unfortunate situation in South Africa where the Minister of Finance, there's a thing called Section 28 in the Pension Fund Act that allows you to take money offshore. And they increased the threshold from 30% to 45% for pension funds of South African workers to be taken offshore to create employment in Portugal, London, the United States, and the rest of the world, when the employment should be created right here in South Africa. And what we are calling upon in terms of the unlocking, the raising of capital, is that the pension funds are sitting with all the pension funds, besides the GEPF and PIC and host, we're talking about the Sanlams and everyone else and the private pension funds. The pension funds, I believe that organizations like Gau-Soweto, the other federations, should call all the pension funds, it's their workers, and insist that they allocate a substantial amount of the funds in terms of Section 28 to support developers in this country. You could unlock hundreds of billions of rands of capital to facilitate these developments, and that will help a great deal because the pension funds criteria is less stringent than banks. And that's why a lot of developers, unless you've got a big balance sheet, it's difficult to get bank funding. With the pension funds, it's much easier. And I believe we could see that construction side. And also, MEC, this falls to the Minister of Public Works and yourself. You advertised lots of plots of land, the Minister, to be sold to the private sector, and there were thousands of bids. And we are hoping that process will also be unlocked as soon as possible, so we as developers can take advantage. And as long as there's cranes and the only way we can help with the issue of unemployment in this country is to put more cranes, create that construction site we're talking about. So one of the questions people ask is, how did we do this Oceans Development 5 billion without a cent from the South African banks? And that is where we went out with alternate funding, using pension funds, getting broad-based empowerment involved to raise capital. And that is a big discussion, but I want to say that it's very important that we all work together, and especially with the pension funds, to unlock more capital to facilitate development in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. And you know, when you talk pension funds, that put a lot of pressure on us, because you also don't want to harm pension funds. So it comes down to trust. So I want to go to Mr. de Klerk, and I see he did raise his hand to also just mention about it. But also, is there a trust from investors now in what we're seeing to do this type of investment that Mr. Reddy is talking about? Mr. de Klerk.
Yeah, so maybe just as a bit of an introduction for those that don't know, Growthpoint Properties is South Africa's largest real estate investment company. It's also the 38th largest listed company on the JSE. And the history of the company was it started several years ago, but in 2001 literally consisted of 15 properties worth about 100 million rand. And today it has a broad investment base of over 70-odd billion rands worth of assets in South Africa, and 155 billion rands worth of assets globally. And that was built on the back of trust and investment into real estate, and not just buying existing real estate, but also developing new real estate. So when thinking about your industry, what are the catalysts that drive the business for you is ultimately either developers or property investors on the one side, so the private sector companies, or on the other side, it would be government infrastructure spend that is driving the activity in your sector. Now, if you want to attract investors into a sector, and maybe it's a bit controversial in this municipality, is you can't provide uncertainty in terms of land ownership. People must understand that if they buy a piece of land, then they're going to own it, and they can develop on it, and they can put a lease in place, and it will be a proper investment case. So certainly that's the first thing. You need certainty on ownership. Then you need just clear policy, and you need a very good environment from an economic perspective, because ultimately our business is being driven by demand. So if there's companies growing and they need more space for logistics or for shopping centers or for office buildings, then that's when we do more business, and that's ultimately when you do more business. So at the moment, our portfolio of offices are full in KwaZulu-Natal. As an example, we are starting to build new offices in KwaZulu-Natal today. So it's a very, very simple market-driven, and we are all connected. So the other very big overlay here is, of course, municipalities, right? So we as citizens are very exposed to our municipalities in terms of the services that we provide. Now, I think Mike Tyson said it's a good plan goes out the window as soon as you get hit in the nose, right? And the reality is that when we as property investors hit the tarmac, often there's no tarmac to be seen in these areas. So we increasingly having to provide infrastructure, which is actually general municipal infrastructure. And that is something that, we're asking the municipalities, and we're putting, a lot of effort into discussions with the municipalities to try and provide additional. So if you've got certainty, you've got good municipalities, and you'll see the good municipalities in this country, they are attracting the investment, and the pension funds very much are supporting the growth in the real estate sector. And as interest rates come down, our cost of capital reduces. So in other words, money becomes cheaper, the deals start working, and the tenants can start afford the rentals. And ultimately, that's a big part of where the construction sector plays a huge role. So if construction is too expensive, or if it takes too long, or if it overruns, you know, the expression of time is money is very, very real. So if you've built a R1 billion project and it overruns by 1 month, the cost of that is directly just in interest, about R9 million. So every month you're late, it costs us R9 million, which means that either the return to the investor is going to be lower, or ultimately the poor tenant has to pay more rental. Now, for us as South Africans, we have to be competitive in the global markets, and we are all interlinked in the global markets. And our cost of capital gets determined by how efficient we are in this country and how good our policy is. And the growth in our country is very, very much dependent on our ability to attract capital, not just as a sector for the private sector, but also as government. And over the past period, with the amount of volatility that there has been, it has made it very, very difficult for the sector. But I agree, I think that the sector is turning, and we're starting to see construction really bloom. I mean, at any one stage now, Growth Point, together on balance sheet as well through the V&A, we must have roughly about 6 to 8 billion rands worth of development currently underway.
Fantastic. And you know, the politician's version of that saying of Mike Tyson is a good plan goes out the door the moment the first ballot is cast. But it's basically the same thing. And I'm happy to hear about KZN. Our department has a few buildings that are up for sale. If you don't mind foot stewards, then you're more than welcome to come and talk to us. MEC, now I must first declare my love for the Free State, because I'm an old Free State boy. I matriculated in Bloemfontein, and it will always be my second province after KZN. So I must just say that beforehand, before people say I'm giving the MEC a soft ride today. And the Free State, it might be shaped like a kidney, but it's the heart of South Africa, because it's right in the center, and you can't go anywhere without going through the Free State. And we heard what was said by the two previous speakers. And when it comes to trust, it really also comes down to government being transparent about inclusion, about the quality that we provide. So how can provinces, and your province is very rural, how can provinces strengthen delivery capacity while ensuring that transparency, inclusion, and quality that brings about the trust?
Thank you very much, Program Director, my colleague, MEC. My name is Dibulelo Manje. I'd like to introduce myself because it's important to pronounce my surname properly. I'm the MEC for Department of Public Works and Infrastructure from the Free State Province. Key to everything else is for us to acknowledge that the construction industry is a powerful catalyst for development, and it employs thousands. It also drives demand in as far as materials is concerned. It links directly to provincial growth and development strategies or priorities. Earlier in our conversation, we agreed in principle, and we all, you know, the House was overwhelmingly agreeing with us that the industry has grown so much in the last quarter. And equally, the construction contributes 3% to the GDP. Now, with all this, there are so enormous pressures when it comes to this particular industry. Slow infrastructure rollouts, shrinking budgets, and skills losses. And I'm sure when I'm speaking about shrinking budgets, this is a conversation that we just had with His Excellency on the sidelines. But also, we cannot succeed without coordination. I'm sure this is one of the key elements that we must agree, that Public Works on its own, as a department, will not succeed on its own. Government then came up with a program to say, let's look at DDM. How do we consolidate our work in ensuring that we are all coordinated? One district, one plan, one budget. But key to everything else is to ensure that we are coordinated in a form of ensuring that the work is done and we implement, we deliver as expected. Program Director, I know you asked me a specific question, but I've diverted for a specific reason, that there must be a clear understanding from all of us that building infrastructure is not going to be a one-size-fits-all program or arrangement. We would require everybody to participate and play their part, because there are challenges in building this particular industry: fiscal constraint, late payments to contractors, skills erosion, irregular or regulatory hurdles in as far as PIC is concerned and National Treasury, and so on and so on. There's a huge backlog in as far as infrastructure is concerned. However, we ought to appreciate that if we were to deliver, we must be transparent in the procurement process to ensure that project management is done thorough. Therefore, there's a need for open data systems. There's a need for public reporting on projects' progress, so that our communities, everybody who's participating in the particular industry is able to be on par in terms of where we are. But key to everything else is also strong community monitoring mechanisms, because there's no point in building infrastructure when communities are not involved. Therefore, it is important to make sure that we build this particular, we build transparency, we build relationships with our communities. But everything else goes back to how do we implement to ensure that service delivery is at the center. Quality assurance must be done. We must ensure that corruption is dealt with within the industry. And I'm happy as MECs from different provinces, this is one element that we agreed to say, one, we need to build an industry that is corruption-free, because whenever we are unable to finish our projects, it's not only government that is going to suffer. The person who's supposed to benefit out of is those kids who are still sitting in the rural areas, those men and women who are supposed to be utilizing the hospitals to ensure that they get health services. But everything else must also come back to transformation. When we do this work, transformation is key. Women and youth must benefit from the industry, from the from the mainstream of our economy. Therefore, in everything that we do, we must also consider transformation as a critical aspect to develop this particular country.
Thank you so much. And I think that word transformation is one that we talk a lot about, but I don't think we always conceptualize exactly what it means for each industry. So I think it's very important that you raise that. But transformation also these days means technological transformation and adapting to a world that's changing much faster than we ever knew before. So Prof, and I see you also there for my favorite province in the Free State. So we are well represented, or my second favorite province, before I get fired by the Premier who's here. And especially, I see here, you know, especially the work you've done around AI. I joked yesterday, or a few days ago, I joked and I said, politicians are safe. We're the only job that's not going to be replaced by AI. And then I read that there's now in the country of Albania, they appointed a minister who's AI. They've appointed an AI minister. So apparently my job is not so safe anymore. So we all should worry a little bit. But I think it's all about the opportunities it brings. So Prof, from your side, what educational and technological reforms are needed to prepare South Africa's construction workforce for this digital era that we are now in?
Okay. I hope I'm audible. Thank you so much, Program Director. I'm actually very, very happy. I'm so excited because since I came yesterday, just this moment is the first time I heard the Free State being mentioned, because I was beginning to wonder, we are talking inclusivity, and the Free State is nowhere to be mentioned. This morning, we talk about institutions. We're not there. I'm like, but we're supposed to be inclusive. What's going on? So thank you so much for that, because yes, I'm Kahilu, and I'm coming from the Free State, allegedly the only state that is truly entirely free in the whole wide world. Thank you so much. So coming to this, I think for me, the question that we've asked, first of all, I just want to put it out there that I'm speaking for all academics in all institutions when we talk about it, because such a gathering is really important, because most of the times you find maybe the national government, the provincial government, when you have your functions or you have events, you're speaking to yourselves. A lot of us academics, we do have a lot of these engagements. Even just yesterday, we had one big one in Cape Town, but you find it's just the academics. And I'm sure those who are coming from the civil society, they do the same. But we never come under one roof. And with the kind of challenges that we have in the construction industry, the only way we can really move forward is if we have everybody, the way we have the government, the contractors, the financiers, the academics. And for academic institutions, we play a critical role as the knowledge interchange partners. You mostly have to do the decision making, you have to implement projects, but we are driving this key towards, let's have more of decision-based, evidence-based decisions that we can make, and also knowledge-driven project implementation. How do we do that? We have to bring in the academics. A lot of the work, there are a lot of missed opportunities, because a lot of academics, I know there's some work which is out there which is making a lot of impact with policy, but a lot of the work that is done ends up in outlets you don't even read, you don't even see. If I talk about Q1 journal, Q2 journal, you'd be like, what is that? But we want that work to have impact in the community, because we do impactful research, but we have a missed opportunity in terms of the collaboration. The link between the industry, the research, and the teaching is sort of weak. And we are advocating, let us not just talk, but let us make sure that as an institution, because there's so many areas where we can come in, and this has to be national. If you look at the Free State, the Northern Cape would capture that whole area. Moving into Lesotho is already engulfed. And just to allow that, so that we look at each area, what are the different needs, because there'll be no one formula that fits all. In this age of technology, of course, we can't just not go there, because whether we like it or not, technology is here. But we have to look at it from different angles and look at different areas. What kind of technology are we going to use, when and where? What are the current systems that we have? What is the current technology? And the systems, how do they work, the old system? Can they work with the new technology? Do we need to bring in new technology? So those are some of the things that we need to look at. And who better to partner with than academics to try to dissect even this program that we're talking about, the half-belt action, which is really a commendable thing that you have going. There are a lot of issues that have been unpacked, and we want to play a key role in just helping dissect that, and also to maybe scale it out there in terms of how do we really go about. We are the production house. We're training students. Think of it as professionals in training. That's the training ground. How do we partner better to make sure that we're going to produce students who are digitally skilled, students who are ethically grounded, because that is part of what they're bringing into the industry. So already if we can partner with the industry in real projects where the industry can come in, and we're talking financial contractors, all houses, all stakeholders, to already get the students to have a feel. Support our work integrated programs. Let us do pilot projects on certain technologies that they can apply. AI, whether it's BIM, and a whole lot of hosts that we can. And I think from the academics, really, that is where we see ourselves in terms of we are playing a role, but I think because of the collaboration, the fragmentation that is there, the impact is not very much felt. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I think, Prof, that, there's quite often from the private sector and government, the accusation is made that academics are sitting in ivory towers. They don't understand our needs on the ground. And from the other side, the academics will say that, especially government, but in a lesser sense, the private sector doesn't adapt quick enough and doesn't embrace the new changes. So you're saying the key to that actually is just communication, sitting down and actually having these discussions? Or what do you think? How do we bridge that gap that seems to be there?
Yeah, would like to have this discussion, but it must not just end a discussion. Like when we leave here, I want to go with my MEC there, and then we continue the thing. I want to have growth point. Let it not just end here. Let us go out. Let us start making plans really where we see. And that would also help even the institutions. We are competitors, but we are collaborators because we still work within the same pool, and we're all working to try and make the construction industry site. How is it going to become a site if each person is doing their own thing? So yeah, there could be, maybe it's like the chicken egg sort of thing where this one maybe is waiting for the other, but we're coming out now. Maybe we didn't come out loud enough. So I want to use this opportunity to say we are ready. We have the resources, we have even students, we have staff, but really is trying to come up with, are there certain programs that we can implement, we can come up with? Research related, we can support on certain programs that needs to be implemented, we can brainstorm, we can problem solve. So there's a whole lot of resources, some of it lying dormant because opportunities are there, but they're not there. So I think it's really trying to come up with, can we come up, like the chair said in terms of CEO, in terms of we're going to have actionable items at the end of the day. So at the end of the summit, yes, let's have and say, okay, maybe next year we can come and report. We said this, what plans did you come up with? What have you done so far? That way there's also that, and then we can see how we're doing that.
And I've also read recently there's some exciting things being done regarding procurement and AI. So I think there's some wonderful times for us lying ahead. The most important part of this plenary is actually what we hear from the audience, but I want to ask one last very quick question, and we'll start at the end there. And I know it's hard for the politicians on the stage, but I'm going to ask everybody just 2 sentences. Your first sentence is, what do you think, from your perspective, is the biggest challenge for South Africa's construction industry, and what is our biggest opportunity? And just those 2 sentences, what's the biggest challenge, what's the biggest opportunity? We'll start at the end there and then come back this side.
Hi. Thanks. What a complicated question. I wish you had started on the other end there.
No.
Look, there's so many, and I can't even think which ones has more priority than the other. But obviously, the extortion and crime is a big problem within our industry. The opportunities that are there, or the lack of opportunities, and of course, maybe from a CIDB perspective, is the under expenditure. You know, we always give these figures, the 1 trillion in the medium term, and it really doesn't get down to the ground. And for us, perhaps, as an entity that wants to see development and the growth of the industry, transformation, etc., that becomes a big hindrance because the money is there, the money is spoken about, but it doesn't come down. So efficiencies around client departments, your public works, and making sure that they roll those projects and the contractors and manufacturers and suppliers benefit, then all is good. And I think I'll leave the other challenge to the 2 gentlemen here from the private sector, because I'd like to hear how they actually could assist on transformation, because that's another challenge. Thank you.
Thank you so much. MEC, same question.
I hope you'll allow me 7 sentences because you're allowed to a whole lot. On a lighter note, the industry, we are a potential biggest employer in the country. And the last quarter outcomes are a clear indication that if we're to be more coordinated, we can achieve more. And that speaks to the development of the country. That is an opportunity for us as the industry. The challenge, President has indicated that there is no new money. We have to work with what we have. However, what is key is efficiency and effectiveness to drive this particular economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was almost 2. Mr. de Klerk, from your side.
Yeah, I think I would distill the challenges boils down to regulation, red tape, and then skills for the construction sector. So our experience is that, you know, good quality management on site is pretty challenging. And I think the opportunity is that, you know, we are a developing country. And if we can get our policies right and attract capital, we can be a Dubai of Africa. We have the skill sets, we have the infrastructure and the know-how, and we have actually the capital within the country's saving system to be able to unlock this economy.
Thank you so much. And before I go to Mr. Reddy, I'll just remind him I did slip him 20 Rand to say opportunity is the wonderful MEC for public works and infrastructure. But Mr. Reddy, from your side, what do you think is our opportunity and our challenge?
And I think looking at the audience here, they will agree that one of the biggest problems in the challenge we face is access to jobs and contracts by SMMEs in this country. And I want to tell you what we did on the oceans development. We ensured that the main contractor actually achieves a 75% involvement of SMMEs. And we achieved it. Of the 5 billion here, 2.5 billion went to SMMEs. You've got to put it into the contract, you've got to force people to do it. And one of the other things we did is also the big challenge is the lack of black professional leaders, even in the construction industry, contracts, managers, engineers. And what we've achieved in Oceans by putting making it a condition of the contract on the main contractor that by the time the third tower was built, it had to be done by a complete team of black construction individuals. And I'm pleased to report that the new tower, 1.4 billion, been done by a black gentleman as the leader, assisted by 5 black women engineers. And that's how we transform things. If you want transformation, you've got to be very, very firm about it, and you've got to be unapologetic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think that deserves another round of applause from the... And then, Prof, to you, last, the challenges and opportunities.
Yeah, Program Director. I think it's unfortunate that you had to say 1 each. I was hoping you would say 10 each, would have had 50 here, because we have a lot of challenges in the construction industry. And when you have a lot of challenges, for each challenge, you have an opportunity, which means you would have at least another 50 opportunities. But having said that, I concur with all the opportunities that have been highlighted by my fellow speakers here, as well as the opportunities. So if we look at the challenges, there are many. But also what is key is that we're not optimizing on the people. We don't leverage the people, the skills, not even technology. So there already lies a lot of opportunity in terms of just the skills that we have. And in terms of opportunity for us to optimize people, as well as the technology, we have to be intentional in everything that we do. Even with the transformation, if we are not deliberate, if we are not intentional, we cannot achieve what we want to achieve. So collaboration, partnership is key. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think what we heard here from the stage, there is a lot of opportunity, but these challenges, not one of these challenges mentioned cannot be overcome. Yeah. These are all challenges that we can face, and we face many challenges as a nation in the past, and the opportunities far outweighs the challenges from what I've heard. Now we're going to go to the most important people, and it's not the people on the stage, it's actually people sitting in the hall. This is quite a large hall, so I'm not 100% sure how we're going to manage this, but we're going to take 4 questions at the start. I'm just going to stand because that light is quite bright. Is there a roaming mic around? Let me just get indication of that first. Is there a roving mic around? Because otherwise we won't hear. There is, all right. There's 2 questions that side. In the middle block, is there any hands? They're right in the back. So we'll start with that. When I ask your hand again, don't cheat anybody else, that same person, but the 2 people there in the left, if you can have those questions first.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zanele Mofokenge, all the way from Springs. I just have so many questions. I hope you'll come back. But for now, let me just ask one. Can we see data? Can we see your data from grade 1 to grade 9? We want to see transformation. That's number 1. And then number 2, we want to know more about methodologies in terms of the First Lady who spoke. she spoke about quality assurance. And there's a person in grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 from the township who happens to see a principal contractor. I don't know how long, and if I happen to travel, what is that quality assurance? What are the methodologies? What are you talking about? Thank you.
Thank you. There was a second hand there.
Thank you. Gaupalelo Molelekwa. I have a few questions. Chair, Mr. Nzo Khulile, you spoke about challenges of which are experienced in the industry as well as in government. Challenges of underperforming contractors, non-payment by government, and misrepresentation through bank statements. The new challenge that we are experiencing is in the industry as well as in government is the new, not new as such, because it is a law thing where you allow sessions and assignments. This conflicts directly with Section 217 of the Constitution because you have disallowed one contractor to go ahead who had capacity to do the business and allow somebody who has under-costed and then ask for a session or an assignment. So we have a problem there that I think when we come out of here, it will be addressed. Mr. Vivian Reddy, please leave our pensions alone. At the moment, PIC cannot account for the GPF. So please just leave that alone and look somewhere else for capital.
All right, if you could round up, because we still have one more question and then we have to go back to the panel.
Thank you.
We're not running
MEC
with the slides.
Dibulelo, quality assurance. In provinces, we have got universities, 2 universities that were constructed, two new universities constructed, fully constructed, but we have courts. One court is in the Northern Cape, brand new. Now it's useless, it's even closed. What do we say in this? I know you come from Free State, but I'm talking from the perspective of government and the industry as well, because you are talking about quality assurance. Prof, there is gatekeeping in terms of academics. And it is unfortunate that we need to be partners, but we don't address the issue of gatekeeping. New ideas that are brought by students, because of this lack of knowledge of how government works by academics, the partnership will never happen. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go to that hand that was in the middle block. If you just raise your hand again, please. It will take some time for the microphone to get to you. And then we'll go back to the panel. And just remember to introduce yourself. And if you're asking a specific person, just to who you're asking the question to. All right, have we managed to find a person? There we go, okay.
Thanks a lot. Growth properties. It seems as if they have their own permanent contractors, whom obviously is difficult for us to go through. And I can say, especially on the trade, they have one reason there. We African can make it. Our request is that what should be done to find ourselves being part of those development, because many are happening, especially in Gauteng. We have a lot of development which are done by private companies, Atago and everything. But I can tell you, you go there and check, you'll find that all of them are not done are led by one reason, and it's painful. Can you please give an opportunity, as many as you are here in this hall, to be part of those development? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think the point there is about spreading of opportunities, which also speaks to government. Fortunately, from CIDB, they had to go to a press briefing that was scheduled, but I've just gotten the assurance that in a later time when they're going to be on stage, the data that's been asked for, provide that data for us at a bit later stage, so we haven't forgotten about the data. I'm going to go, there was quite a lot of split for things, so I'll start again with these. Let's switch it around. We'll start from specifically the question, but all the other questions we'll touch on.
No, I'm on. Thank you so much for that question as well as comments of gatekeeping. True, like most patients, bureaucracy, gates, and all are there. Constantly to find a way to do that. But I'm an optimist. I look at things how they have empty. I wouldn't say already trying to say these parts never work. There are ways that some of these things work, including doing things the way we've always done them. Something needs to be done. Just for example, even masters, PhDs, they try to way your PhD after this talk to spend 3 to a PhD way, but also be able to accommodate different ways to accommodate why industry things differently. For example, now PhDs that you can do by say that talk about the that already of showing even the change, things different. We get to supervise the industry, so partnerships. You can be industry in the industry. The student who nothing properly do. So we cannot gatekeeping or not work. Industry could come to us as this in the industry. How do we around it? We put our together. You can sponsor. You can sponsor and do funding. Be a supervisor or something for us to come up with a vision. We are in the business of knowledge, creating knowledge for the sake. We want to create knowledge that is useful, that can drive practical solutions. So I firmly, they're being given all these bureaucracies, they ask that we can do them actually part. Then I think we're ready to step ahead. We're headed in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Reid, was the question mentioned, but also how do we spread opportunities amongst countries?
I think the idea of spreading opportunities, and I want to talk about the opportunity that Esther and I discussed. Property developers finding that lack of big construction companies in South Africa. As a result, the one company is so overconfident. We have, and I'm urging people here that 5, 10 years, create a mid-sized company or a construction. It's better to 100% larger cake than 100% small cake, and you the industry in a big way. I want to feel, I think it's very to come to the PIC. I think with publicity, the PIC 25,000 in. They together investment. We must, but let's not make people how we govern a few things. We must actually looking at things actively have an overall concept. The reality, most pension funds across the world invest in infrastructure because with good you get good results, and that's very important.
Thank you, Dean. Also, diversity.
So I think we touched on broadening I'd pretty much in both answers, but I think example of what we actively done to try and access for want to call it the utility for subcontractors, contractors. So you find somebody who has a buck and that wants to be a painter, doesn't understand all the mitigation factors public companies require of the legislation that we have to meet. So what we do is we train the people, we actually give them to populate. And in fact, these days, even on bigger projects, before the project even sees the light of day or before it's put to the ground, the point team is the local community find who are the subcontractor areas, so who is the local community, and a way to navigate our experience of mafia conduct. So that we tend to discipline the mafia pretty if they have been in processes, and 80% of any of the processes are actually delivered into the community. So I think initiatives probably become an industry initiative, and the small agency also participated, real estate companies participate in that initiative, and contractors keep broadening the base. As part of any contract, there's a procurement process. In that process, information is the key as part of that education. And there has to be a projects, right? So you'll have a discovery scale on the large end if you had to develop 100 meters of office building, different from all smaller work or tenant installation. And if you look right through the chain, opportunity throughout, you'll be surprised how the profiles right across the board he perceives to be. So I think that and the perception of
Thank you. In any we struggle, should we get to our that need great contractors. We always support this. So I think to discuss in the public sector, how do we spread out you about the quality of government?
The team that I came from, I came officials from the department, especially from the unit, because most of the this is what we need to focus on. We shouldn't focus on obsessed with cutting, but focusing on that life. Department, majority of the professionals, by the way, each have a manager from the who oversees quality assurance embedded in every step of the project. But above that, when we are contractors, we are partners whom are in ensuring that the contractors are there. But as the department, we have got project managers in terms of how is the project navigating. Key to MCs will ask that facilitation has been a key condition among us, whereby particular that has been taken to public is with what the agenda is, that you've got a court some that is not utilized, is not doing to be doing, because we can't without consulting community. You can build a clinic, but only a community needs a you can public concerns are quite in terms of infrastructure, so that we use resources where there are instead of willingly necessarily engaging community. However, I must also indicate standardization in government is quite, and this is a conversation that is taking place. But consultants. We want to of our Christian provinces brought this conversation to say, can we look at indemnity insurance so that our engineers, our professionals can take responsibility in as far as the delivery of infrastructure is concerned. But once that, most probably, quality assurance will not be questions that will come because we will need responsibility as professionals. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Not everybody happy with the round of questions. The person the newly facilitated MEC of popular. That's the role we have to play. Colleagues, I will also remind you that the biggest part of an event like this is working. Networking doesn't work on stage to work on coffee, and that's that I really need to and all of those times. So this is not the end of this is not the discussion. We then go to all of that discussion will be there. And you've heard, I'm not going to give the answer. I think it's an opportunity that just a lot of this here today, a lot of this is still to be learned. I didn't hear mention, but I think to the back of it, for instance, it may, I think it's getting rid of it, a lot of these opportunities. The rate is not for many reasons. One of the that we use. So I think that is to look at movement against crime and this is the big the numbers very positive that we still you know from we have made and deep areas capacity is easy for us we really struggle to build that and I think that's an opportunity for us the private sector we heard what is thank you to sit far more than I think us the to practice that we don't overcome innovation and build Africa is much easier. I almost for the meeting to be held in the room sit near the entrance.
Very much for them. The deputy minister he said to him, in terms of time, we have a surplus of 3 minutes. So we didn't finish it. Actually, we are done. Just 3 minutes before. So I wish, so you can give yourself a good round of applause. 3 minutes back. That's how efficient and effective we've been. At this point, I ask the CEO to make announcements, and then after his announcement, just follow what he's going to say. Let's welcome him to make announcements.
Thank you very much, MEC. I'll try to stick within the 3 minutes so that the data is correct. Yeah,
We are done.
it's just announcement. Good people, we are break now for lunch, and immediately after lunch we will go to our commissions. Colleagues, that's the most important part of the summit like this, because that's where we need to, from the questions that have been asked to the solution, so that tomorrow we can finalize this to the program that we need to do. So I would implore everyone to remain for the commissions. Our commissions, there are 4 of them. Many have pre-selected which commissions they are attending, where Commission 1 is dealing with industry performance, Commission 2, sustainability and infrastructure, resilience and innovations, Commission 3, transformation, skills development and inclusivity, and then Commission 4, governance and regulatory compliance. The issues that were discussed here. So the lunch is from now at 12:30 to 1:15. So 1:15, we should be seated in our commission, and I would ask all the commission leaders, our MECs, and the facilitators and the participants to be in the commission venue at least at 1, so we can finalize the setup and we can speak with our colleagues. Our ushers are outside. I will ask that all our MECs, speakers, and all the board members of the CIDP, CEOs of entities, HOD, they go back to the holding room by the reception, to those holding rooms where they were. And all our other colleagues from the industry, our lunch venues are 2. The closest one, don't worry, I'm not going to finish the food in that one. It's just around the corner here. And Mrs. is not going to finish the food on the other one, just